Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like the years you poured into them suddenly didn't matter? I walked into my daughter's wedding that day full of quiet excitement, but my heart sank the moment the staff checked the guest list. Your name isn't here. Every eye seemed to linger on me for a moment too long, and my stomach twisted. Had all those years of care, support, and sacrifice vanished in an instant? I forced a polite smile and turned away, trying to steady my shaking hands. But inside, a quiet question kept gnawing at me. Why am I being erased? And as I left the hall, something told me this wasn't the end of the story. Something unexpected was about to unfold. I stepped back from the desk, trying to steady myself, when the staff exchanged uneasy glances, a silent question hanging in the air. Had they made a mistake, or was this intentional? My son-in-law leaned casually against the pillar, smirking as if he were witnessing a private joke at my expense, while my daughter's face stayed unreadable, frozen in silence. Around us, whispers began to ripple through the crowd, a soft wave of curiosity and judgment. But amid all this, a sudden thought pierced through the chaos. Why had they thought they could erase me so easily? That question lingered as I scanned the venue, and my eyes caught a small overlooked detail. A piece of paper on the side table, slightly out of place, something no one seemed to notice. And in that moment, I realized there was more to this day than what they were showing me, a truth that no list, no smirk, no silence could hide. As I stepped toward the exit, my mind raced faster than my feet. Years of care and sacrifices flashed before me, but none of that seemed to matter now. Then my eyes flicked back to the piece of paper, slightly out of place, overlooked by everyone. Something about it felt deliberate, almost like a quiet signal only I could notice. I realized it wasn't just a random detail. It could hold the key to what was really happening today. A small bead of doubt crept in. Had they truly thought they could humiliate me without consequences? My pulse quickened, not from anger, but from a growing sense of anticipation. Something was about to happen, something they hadn't expected, and I had no choice but to stay and see it unfold. I stayed near the edge of the hall, heart thudding as guests settled in. One of the staff stepped toward the seating chart, hesitated, and glanced at me, an instinctive movement that made me notice the folded envelope tucked behind it. My pulse spiked. It wasn't just paper anymore. It was a trigger. Before I could think, the son-in-law straightened, scanning the room, his eyes landing on me for a brief second, and I felt the sharp edge of exposure. My daughter remained silent, her hands tight at her sides, but now her stillness carried weight. The orchestra began to play softly, signaling the ceremony's start, and with it, the room shifted into motion. I took a careful step toward the envelope, my senses taut with urgency. One wrong move, and the secret might slip away forever. My eyes stayed locked on the envelope tucked behind the seating chart. A waiter adjusted the tablecloth, nudging the corner just enough to make it peek out, and my pulse spiked. The son-in-law's eyes flicked in my direction for a brief second, a flash of suspicion crossing his face. My daughter remained silent, her rigid posture amplifying the tension in the space between us. Guests whispered softly, unaware of the small drama unfolding at the edge of the hall. I took a careful step closer, my mind racing. If anyone noticed this envelope before me, the truth it held about money, secrets, or embarrassing revelations might be lost forever. One more step, and I would be within reach. I inched closer to the seating chart, each step measured, careful not to draw attention. the envelope's corner now fully visible, almost daring me to reach for it. The son-in-law shifted, his gaze sharpening, a subtle tightening of his jaw signaling that he had noticed something, though he didn't know what. My daughter's silence was heavier now, like a quiet warning, and the soft rustle of guests moving around only heightened my awareness. My hand hovered near the envelope, and in that instant I realized just how fragile this moment was. One wrong move, one glance from the wrong person, and the secret about the wedding arrangements, the hidden payments, everything might slip away or explode in ways they hadn't imagined. My heart beat faster, but a quiet determination settled over me. I had to act, but perfectly, because the entire room was a silent observer of my next move. I reached out slowly, fingertips hovering just above the envelope, my breathing quiet but sharp in my own ears. Every subtle movement around me felt magnified. The waiter paused mid-step, the son-in-law's eyes narrowed, and my daughter's stillness radiated attention I couldn't ignore. The rustle of programs in guests' hands, the low hum of conversation, even the distant notes of the orchestra seemed to sharpen in my perception. I could almost feel the envelope weighting, heavy with hidden truths, details about payments, the arrangements, the things they assumed I would never know. 1 inch closer, and the risk skyrocketed. If anyone caught me now, the secret could slip away or ignite a public scene. My pulse thundered, but I couldn't stop. I had come this far, and the smallest hesitation might cost everything. Just as my fingers brushed the edge of the envelope, a sudden shift in the room made me freeze. The waiter glanced sharply in my direction, adjusting a tray as if sensing I was up to something. And the son-in-law's gaze sharpened again, locking on me for a fraction longer than before. My daughter's silence felt almost loud now, a quiet tension pressing against my chest. The envelope trembled slightly under my touch, as though aware of the weight it carried. One wrong move, and everything, the hidden payments, the arrangements, the truths they thought I would never uncover, could spill out, or worse, be noticed by the wrong eyes. I held my breath, every sense alert, knowing that in the next few seconds the story could change forever. I froze, holding the envelope carefully between my fingers, my mind racing through every possible reaction from the room. The waiter had shifted his weight, eyes darting around, suspicious but uncertain. The son-in-law's sharp gaze lingered a moment too long, his smirk gone, replaced by something that made my pulse spike. Was he starting to sense I was onto something? My daughter's silence now felt heavier, like a thin wall holding back a storm. Every subtle sound, the scrape of a chair, a guest clearing their throat, felt amplified in the tense space between us. I inched the envelope slightly toward myself, careful to remain unseen, and in that tiny movement, I realized the first clue it contained was just within reach. A detail that could upend their assumptions, if I could read it before anyone else noticed. My fingers finally brushed the top of the envelope, sliding it just enough to peek inside. A folded slip of paper, handwritten in neat, almost formal script, stared back at me, an unexpected detail I hadn't anticipated. The first line alone made my chest tighten. It referenced a hidden payment, something they assumed I would never know. The son-in-law's eyes flicked toward me, sharper this time, and I felt the pressure rise. If he noticed too soon, the truth could vanish before I could act. My daughter remained silent, but the tension radiating from her made the room feel smaller, every movement amplified.
I held my breath, studying the note, knowing that this single piece of paper had the power to expose secrets instantly, and I had to decide what to do before anyone else saw it.
Just as I was about to pull the slip fully from the envelope, the son-in-law shifted, stepping a fraction closer than before. My fingers froze mid-movement, the note barely visible between them, and a jolt of fear shot through me. One glance from him now, and the secret could be exposed before I even had a chance to understand it. My daughter's silence pressed down like a heavy weight, making every heartbeat echo in the room. The waiter adjusted his tray nearby, eyes flicking toward the chart, oblivious to the silent standoff brewing at the edge. I had to make a decision, fast. Retreat and risk losing the clue, or act and risk being caught. With a slow, careful motion, I inched my hand further, almost grazing the note, aware that one wrong move could ignite chaos in the hall before the ceremony had even started. With a careful flick of my fingers, I pulled the slip just enough to read the first line. My eyes widened. It confirmed a hidden payment, the kind of detail they assumed I would never discover. Instantly, I felt the shift in the room. The son-in-law's head snapped slightly in my direction, a subtle narrowing of his eyes signaling that he was starting to suspect. My daughter's hands clenched, her rigid posture radiating tension like electricity. The staff nearby adjusted their positions, glancing nervously at the seating chart as if sensing something was amiss. My pulse surged, every sound around me amplified. The soft clink of glasses, the rustle of programs, even the faint notes of music seemed louder. I had the information in my hand, but the room felt like a minefield. One wrong move, one premature glance, and the secret could ignite chaos before anyone else even realized what had happened. As I studied the note, a flicker of awareness passed over the son-in-law's face. His eyes narrowed, lips tightening in a faint, controlled twitch. He shifted, just enough for me to sense his irritation, but not enough to reveal his suspicion outright. My daughter's posture stiffened, her silent warning like a tether holding back the room's tension. Around us, a few guests glanced curiously at the staff, whose movements had grown slightly hurried, adjusting programs, straightening tablecloths, subtle signals that something was off. Every step I took to read more of the note felt heavier, the weight of discovery pressing against me. The hall was alive now, every small reaction a reminder. One misstep and the secret could erupt, turning whispers into chaos before the ceremony even truly began. Carefully, I unfolded the slip further, revealing another line that made my heart skip. It mentioned an unexpected arrangement, a secret they clearly hoped I'd never learn. The son-in-law's eyes flicked sharply in my direction, his jaw tightening, a subtle but unmistakable sign that he sensed something was amiss. My daughter's hands twitched ever so slightly, betraying the rigid calm she had maintained until now. The staff's hurried movements seemed to grow faster, as if they too could feel the tension crackling in the air. I held my breath, reading each word carefully, knowing that every second I lingered increased the risk. One wrong glance or gesture could ignite whispers, suspicion, or even confrontation. Yet the lure of the truth was irresistible. Every detail I uncovered promised to reveal just how carefully they had tried to keep me in the dark. As I lingered over the slip, the son-in-law took a deliberate step closer, eyes fixed on me with a sharp intensity that made my chest tighten. The envelope trembled slightly in my hands, and I froze, every instinct screaming that one wrong move could expose the secret prematurely. My daughter's silence felt suffocating, her gaze a quiet warning, and even the staff seemed to move faster, as if anticipating something going awry. I had to make a choice instantly, hide the slip, retreat, or risk pulling it fully from the envelope.
My pulse surged as I weighed each option, knowing that any hesitation could spark suspicion, whispers, or confrontation. With a slow, careful movement, I shifted the note just enough to keep it concealed, but fully in reach, preparing for the moment when the secret could no longer be contained. A faint breeze from a passing guest rustled the edge of the envelope, and the slip inside shifted just enough to reveal a few words. My pulse jumped. This tiny exposure was enough for the son-in-law to catch the motion. His eyes narrowed sharply, and I felt the heat of his suspicion like a spotlight on me. My daughter's hands tightened into fists at her sides, her silence now brimming with unspoken warning. The staff nearby quickened their pace, glancing toward the chart as if sensing the tension I was trying to conceal. Each second felt amplified. Every subtle movement became a potential trigger for discovery. I held the slip closer to myself, careful to block their view. But a single misstep now could unravel everything: the hidden payments, the arrangements, the secrets they thought were buried.
I froze for a heartbeat, feeling the son-in-law's sharp gaze drilling into me. Every instinct screamed to shield the slip, so I adjusted my hand, angling it just enough to hide the words without pulling back entirely. My daughter's silent warning felt heavier than ever, and the staff's hurried movements mirrored the tension I was trying to contain. Each second stretched longer, every small sound, programs rustling, a soft cough, the faint scrape of a chair, amplifying the stakes. I knew the slip held secrets that could expose hidden payments and arrangements, and now the window to act safely was shrinking with every passing moment. I had to decide my next move carefully, or risk the consequences unfolding before the ceremony even truly began. I shifted slightly, sliding the slip fully into the envelope while keeping my movements slow and deliberate. The son-in-law's gaze followed each motion, his eyes narrowing as if piecing together the scene, but I managed to block the note from view just in time. My daughter's posture remained rigid, her silent tension radiating through the space like electricity. Even the staff seemed to move with more urgency, adjusting programs and glancing toward the chart, unknowingly amplifying the pressure around me. I held the envelope close, heart pounding, aware that each second brought the risk of discovery higher, but also knowing that this small, careful maneuver had bought me a moment to plan my next step.
The truth was now in my hands, and the secret's power was almost tangible. One wrong reaction could shatter everything the room assumed was hidden. With the slip safely in the envelope, I slowly began to read the words more carefully, each line revealing details I hadn't expected. Hidden payments, arrangements, and decisions that were never meant to reach me were spelled out clearly, and my mind raced to piece together the full picture. The son-in-law shifted again, subtle but noticeable, a tightening of his jaw signaling rising suspicion. My daughter's posture stiffened further, every second of silence pressing down on me like a weight. The staff moved faster, adjusting programs and glancing toward me now with a hint of unease, unknowingly amplifying the tension in the room. Each line I read increased the risk of discovery, but also the magnitude of what I was about to uncover. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every movement critical, and I knew that what I learned next could change everything before the ceremony had even begun. As I absorbed more of the envelope's contents, I noticed the subtle changes around me. The son-in-law's jaw tightened, his posture rigid, and a faint, sharp exhale betrayed his mounting frustration. My daughter shifted slightly, a tremor in her hands betraying the calm she tried to project. Even the staff, unaware of the exact secret, seemed unsettled, moving with more urgency and glancing toward the seating chart as if sensing a disturbance.
Each word I read increased the weight of what I held, the hidden payments, the arrangements, the truths they had assumed would stay buried. I felt a thrill and fear at once. The secret was now alive in the room, and any misstep could make it explode publicly. Every subtle movement from them became a warning, a cue that the fragile balance was tipping, and I had to act carefully before the situation spiraled beyond control. I straightened slightly, using the envelope to shield the slip completely while inching toward a quieter corner of the hall. Every step was calculated. Too fast and the son-in-law would notice. Too slow and someone else might catch sight. My daughter's eyes flicked toward me briefly, a silent question I could feel rather than hear. The son-in-law's gaze followed every motion, sharp and suspicious, while the staff moved like clockwork, oblivious to the invisible tension threading through the room. My heartbeat surged, and I realized that in just a few seconds, the secret could shift from private knowledge to public revelation. I had to secure the slip and decide my next move carefully, or the careful balance of control I had managed to maintain would collapse instantly. I shifted my weight slightly, angling the envelope so that the slip remained hidden from the son-in-law's line of sight. At the same time, I positioned myself near a cluster of guests whose movement would naturally block any accidental glances. My daughter's silent vigilance continued, her eyes darting occasionally toward me, signaling both warning and trust. The son-in-law's brow furrowed, his suspicion growing, though he couldn't yet pinpoint what I had discovered. Even the staff, unaware of the secret, adjusted their positions, unknowingly reinforcing the concealment. Every tiny adjustment felt critical. One misstep, and the delicate balance protecting the secret could shatter instantly. Yet with careful timing and awareness, I managed to keep the slip hidden, buying precious moments to plan my next move before the truth could ignite chaos. Carefully, I peeked at the next line of the slip, and my eyes widened at what I read. Another unexpected arrangement, more shocking than the first. The son-in-law's subtle shift caught my attention immediately, his narrowed gaze and slight exhale signaling that suspicion was growing. My daughter's fingers twitched imperceptibly, a silent warning that the situation was becoming dangerous. The staff moved briskly nearby, oblivious to the invisible tension threading through the room, their hurried gestures only amplifying the stakes. Each new word I absorbed tightened the grip of suspense, making the room feel smaller, every glance and movement loaded with risk. I knew that revealing even a fraction of this second secret prematurely could ignite chaos before the ceremony truly began. And yet, the pull to uncover the full truth was irresistible. Just as I focused on the second detail, a guest brushed past, their elbow grazing the edge of my hand holding the envelope. My heart skipped a beat, and the slip wobbled slightly, almost revealing the words to the son-in-law. He caught the slight motion immediately, his eyes narrowing, suspicion flaring as he leaned subtly closer. My daughter's tension spiked, her hands clenching at her sides, a silent warning I felt more than heard. The staff, adjusting the table nearby, moved obliviously, unknowingly adding to the pressure around me. Every second now felt critical. One careless gesture, and the hidden payments, arrangements, and secrets could explode into the open before I had fully processed them. I had to steady my hands, calm my racing thoughts, and ensure that the slip remained concealed. This near miss reminded me just how fragile the situation had become. After the near miss, I took a slow, deliberate breath, steadying my hands and repositioning the envelope so the slip was fully hidden.
Every movement now was calculated. Too abrupt, and the son-in-law might notice. Too hesitant, and the opportunity to fully uncover the secret could slip away. My daughter's eyes flicked toward me, conveying both concern and trust, while the son-in-law's sharp gaze continued to probe, sensing tension but unaware of the full truth.
The staff moved around us, seemingly routine, yet every shift in their positions added pressure, like subtle markers of a ticking clock. I knew I had a few precious moments to plan my next move, deciding how and when to reveal or preserve the secret. The weight of what I now held pressed on me. A single wrong decision could change the course of the wedding before it even truly began. Carefully, I peeked at the next line of the slip, and my eyes widened. This detail was even more unexpected than the last. It revealed a decision they assumed I'd never discover, something that could shift perceptions of both my daughter and son-in-law instantly. The son-in-law's subtle shift did not go unnoticed. His jaw tightened, and a faint exhale betrayed his mounting suspicion. My daughter's hands twitched almost imperceptibly, her silence now fraught with warning. Even the staff, unaware of the secret specifics, moved with a little more urgency, adjusting programs and glancing toward me as if sensing tension. Each new word increased the stakes, making the room feel smaller and every glance heavier. I knew that revealing even a fraction of this new detail prematurely could ignite chaos, and yet the pull to understand the full truth was irresistible. I felt the shift before I saw it, subtle but unmistakable. The son-in-law leaned slightly forward, eyes narrowing, his body language signaling that he was piecing together something he wasn't meant to know. My pulse spiked. Every instinct screamed caution. I subtly adjusted the envelope, keeping the slip hidden while inching toward a less conspicuous spot near a group of guests whose positions could shield me. My daughter's silent tension pressed on me, a reminder that one wrong move could fracture everything. The staff, moving through the hall, unwittingly added to the pressure, their movements creating obstacles and distractions that I had to navigate carefully. Each new word increased the stakes, making the room feel smaller and every glance heavier. I knew that revealing even a fraction of this new detail prematurely could ignite chaos, and yet the pull to understand the full truth was irresistible. I felt the shift before I saw it, subtle but unmistakable. The son-in-law leaned slightly forward, eyes narrowing, his body language signaling that he was piecing together something he wasn't meant to know. My pulse spiked. Every instinct screamed caution. I subtly adjusted the envelope, keeping the slip hidden while inching toward a less conspicuous spot near a group of guests whose positions could shield me. My daughter's silent tension pressed on me, a reminder that one wrong move could fracture everything. The staff, moving through the hall, unwittingly added to the pressure, their movements creating obstacles and distractions that I had to navigate carefully. Each new word increased the stakes, making the room feel smaller and every glance heavier. I knew that revealing even a fraction of this new detail prematurely could ignite chaos, and yet the pull to understand the full truth was irresistible.
The secret was alive now, and the moment of exposure felt closer than ever. I had to act with precision or risk the revelation exploding into chaos. I seized the moment, shifting slightly to place the envelope behind my back, fully concealing the slip from the son-in-law's line of sight. My heart hammered as I balanced the move with the need to appear calm, every micro movement calculated to avoid drawing attention. My daughter's gaze flicked toward me again, a subtle mix of trust and tension, while the son-in-law's eyes scanned the room, still suspicious but unaware of my action. The staff moved briskly around us, their oblivious gestures creating both cover and pressure at the same time. Each second now felt charged. The slip contained truths that could upend perceptions instantly, and one wrong move could shatter the delicate balance I had maintained. I had to plan my next step carefully, knowing the secret's exposure could happen in the blink of an eye. With the slip now fully concealed, I let my eyes scan the words again, connecting the dots between the hidden payments, secret arrangements, and subtle manipulations I had never known about. Each realization tightened the knot of suspense in my chest. The son-in-law's gaze flicked toward me repeatedly, sharp and probing, while my daughter's quiet tension radiated like a tether holding back chaos. Staff movements, once routine, now felt like potential triggers, every glance and shuffle threatening to expose the secret prematurely. I realized that the full truth was more complex than I had imagined, and the room itself seemed to pulse with potential revelation. One wrong gesture, one misstep, could unravel everything in an instant. But the urgency to understand the complete story propelled me forward, heart racing with both fear and anticipation. I shifted slightly, keeping the envelope snug against my chest, and allowed my eyes to scan the slip for the final pieces of the puzzle. Each line revealed connections I hadn't noticed before, hidden agreements, subtle manipulations, and decisions my daughter and son-in-law assumed would never reach me. The son-in-law's gaze flicked again, sharper this time, as if sensing the change in the room's tension. My daughter's hands tightened slightly, a silent plea for discretion, while staff movements created unintentional cover and pressure at the same time. The full weight of the secret pressed against me. One misstep could expose everything in a heartbeat. Yet the pull to understand the truth completely was irresistible, and I knew that the next careful maneuver could determine whether I maintained control or watched the secret explode before everyone. Just as I absorbed the final lines of the slip, the son-in-law stepped closer, his eyes narrowing, suspicion fully tangible now. Every instinct screamed caution, and my hands instinctively tightened around the envelope to hide the slip. My daughter's silent tension intensified, her gaze flicking between us, a quiet warning that the moment had reached a tipping point. The staff moved nearby, oblivious, yet their presence made each movement more critical, like obstacles on a narrow path. I had mere seconds to decide, reveal a hint, retreat, or maintain complete concealment. A wrong move could expose the hidden payments, secret arrangements, and all the truths they assumed were buried. My pulse surged as I prepared for a precise maneuver, knowing that the next action would determine whether I retained control or let the secret erupt in the middle of the ceremony. I shifted subtly, angling the envelope against my side to completely hide the slip while keeping it within reach. Each movement was deliberate. Too sudden, and the son-in-law's suspicion could spike. Too slow, and someone else might notice the slight disturbance. My daughter's eyes flicked toward me again, a silent mix of trust and tension. The son-in-law's gaze followed every subtle shift, still probing, still uncertain, while the staff moved efficiently around us, their oblivious motions adding both cover and pressure. Every heartbeat felt magnified. The slip contained truths that could unravel the room in an instant. I had bought myself a few crucial seconds, but the next decision, how to handle the secrets, would define whether the delicate balance I maintained could continue or collapse into chaos. I took a measured breath, weighing every movement as I positioned myself near the envelope, the slip still hidden, but now ready for closer inspection. My mind raced through the clues I had already pieced together, connecting payments, hidden arrangements, and decisions that were never meant for me to see.
The son-in-law's eyes flicked toward me again, sharper now, signaling that his suspicion was building, while my daughter's tension radiated like a warning wire connecting us. The staff moved nearby, unaware, but each shuffle and glance acted like markers on a ticking clock, reminding me that time was fleeting. I knew that the next moment, when I fully accessed this part of the secret, would determine whether I could maintain control or risk the revelation spiraling out of hand. Every subtle movement now carried weight, and every second brought me closer to the truth that could change the room forever.
I finally allowed my eyes to focus fully on the next section of the slip, and my breath caught. The words revealed an arrangement far more shocking than I had anticipated, a secret decision the son-in-law assumed would never surface, one that changed the dynamics of the entire wedding. My pulse quickened, and I felt the tension in the room thicken. The son-in-law's gaze sharpened, suspicion now nearly palpable, while my daughter's quiet, taut stance communicated both anxiety and an unspoken plea for discretion. Even the staff, oblivious to the secret, seemed to move with an uncanny urgency, their actions amplifying the fragile tension around me. Every second was a battle between the pull to fully understand the secret and the need to maintain control. One wrong move could unleash everything before anyone was prepared. I froze for a heartbeat, weighing the implications of what I now knew. Every instinct screamed caution, yet the pull to act, to control the outcome, was irresistible. Should I reveal a hint, confront the son-in-law subtly, or maintain complete secrecy for now? Each option carried enormous risk. My daughter's eyes flicked to me, silent and urgent, signaling the delicate trust between us. The son-in-law's gaze lingered, sharper than ever, as if sensing my hesitation. Even the staff, unaware, moved in ways that threatened to expose the slightest misstep. I realized that the next action I chose would dictate the balance of power for the rest of the ceremony. One wrong decision, and the secret could explode, humiliating and shocking everyone in the hall. Every second stretched, heavy with consequence, and I knew I had to act, carefully but decisively.
I made a subtle, deliberate move, adjusting my position so the slip remained completely hidden while gaining a slightly better vantage point to read its contents. Every micro-movement was precise. Too obvious, and the son-in-law would notice. Too slow, and the secret could slip beyond my reach. My daughter's eyes flicked toward me, tense but trusting, while the son-in-law's gaze followed each subtle adjustment, suspicion sharpening with every heartbeat. The staff moved around the hall, oblivious to the high-stakes tension, their presence creating both cover and pressure. The secret's weight pressed heavily on me. I knew that a single misstep could reveal everything, shattering the balance I had managed to maintain. Each careful maneuver brought me closer to understanding the full truth and to controlling how it would unfold. I scanned the final lines of the slip, and my breath caught. The words revealed a truth so unexpected it could completely upend the son-in-law's assumptions and the perception of my daughter. My pulse raced as I realized just how explosive this detail was. The son-in-law's gaze sharpened, suspicion now almost tangible, while my daughter's hands trembled slightly, a silent warning that the tension had reached a tipping point. Even the staff, oblivious to the secret specifics, moved in ways that unknowingly amplified the pressure in the room. Every second now carried unbearable weight. One slip, one accidental glance, and the revelation would shatter the delicate balance I had worked so hard to maintain. I knew that controlling the timing and the exposure of this final secret would determine the outcome of the entire ceremony. I allowed my eyes to flick up, meeting my daughter's gaze for a split second, silently signaling that I understood the full scope of what the slip contained. Every movement was deliberate. I subtly shifted the envelope so the son-in-law could see nothing, while positioning myself to control when and how the information could surface. My heart hammered as I considered my options. Reveal a hint now to gauge reactions, wait to confront later, or maintain complete silence until the perfect moment. The son-in-law's suspicion was tangible, a sharp energy radiating toward me, while my daughter's posture remained taut with tension, silently warning me that one misstep could destroy everything. The staff continued moving around the hall, oblivious, yet each shuffle felt like it could trigger exposure. The balance of secrecy, control, and timing was fragile. Every second now counted. As I held the envelope close, I noticed a subtle shift in the son-in-law's posture. His eyes darted toward me more frequently, suspicion intensifying. My daughter's subtle glance confirmed my fears. She knew the secret was too volatile to be exposed now. The staff, oblivious to the growing tension, moved around the hall, their shuffling unintentionally creating both cover and pressure. Small reactions from nearby guests, curious glances, slight whispers, hinted that the energy in the room was beginning to change, even if they didn't know why. The secret's presence was palpable. The slightest misstep could trigger a chain reaction, revealing truths the son-in-law assumed were safe. Every heartbeat carried a mixture of fear, anticipation, and the need to act wisely. The room itself seemed to pulse with possibility, and I knew that the next few moments would decide how far the ripple would spread. I felt it immediately, a shift in the son-in-law's expression, subtle at first but unmistakable. His jaw tightened, a flicker of unease crossed his eyes, and he leaned slightly closer, as if trying to sense the source of the tension. My daughter's quiet posture stiffened, her hands tightening subtly, a silent warning that he was inching too close to the truth. The staff moved about the hall, oblivious to the invisible storm brewing, while other guests' glances and hushed murmurs began to fill the space, amplifying the weight of the secret. Each second felt magnified. One careless movement could spark an uncontrolled revelation. I knew the secret's ripple had begun, and the son-in-law's rising suspicion meant I had to act carefully. Every choice from this point forward could determine whether the truth would remain mine to manage or explode into chaos. With the son-in-law's suspicion intensifying, I made a subtle yet deliberate adjustment, shifting the envelope to keep the slip completely out of view while positioning myself to read it without risk. My movements were precise, measured, almost invisible. Too abrupt, and he would notice. Too hesitant, and the secret could slip from my grasp. My daughter's eyes met mine for a fleeting moment. Silent reassurance mingled with tension, reminding me that every choice mattered. The staff moved about, unaware, but their presence added both cover and pressure, forcing me to balance secrecy with timing. Each second now carried immense weight. The slip's contents were explosive, and controlling the flow of information was the only way to prevent a public disaster. One careful maneuver could restore balance, and one misstep could unleash chaos. I took a measured breath, knowing that the next move had to be precise. I positioned the envelope so that I could glimpse the critical portion of the slip without exposing the rest. Each muscle in my body tensed with anticipation. One misstep and the son-in-law would notice. One wrong glance and the secret could explode in front of everyone. My daughter's eyes met mine briefly, tense, silent, conveying both trust and warning. Around us, staff continued their routine, completely unaware of the invisible storm brewing, while nearby guests' murmurs and subtle movements added a layer of pressure. Every heartbeat seemed amplified. The room felt charged.
I realized that the carefully controlled reveal I was planning would dictate how the rest of the ceremony unfolded, and the balance of secrecy and exposure now rested entirely on my next action. I allowed a subtle hint of the slip's contents to show, just enough for the son-in-law to sense something, but not enough for full understanding. His eyes narrowed, confusion mixing with suspicion, while my daughter's subtle tension intensified, signaling the delicate balance we now navigated. Each shuffle of the staff, each whisper from nearby guests heightened the pressure. Every second felt stretched, loaded with potential exposure. My heartbeat raced as I measured the distance between concealment and revelation, aware that the smallest error could unravel everything. This first controlled reveal was a test, a way to gauge reactions without giving away the explosive truth entirely. And as the son-in-law's gaze lingered, sharp and questioning, I realized that the next move would either maintain control or push the secret dangerously close to full exposure. The son-in-law's eyes widened ever so slightly, a flicker of realization, or was it suspicion, passing across his face. His posture shifted, subtly but unmistakably, leaning forward as if trying to sense the extent of what he had just glimpsed.
My daughter's hands tightened in her lap, a silent signal of the tightrope we were walking together. The staff moved around the hall, oblivious, yet their motion added pressure, as if the room itself were conspiring to expose the secret. Every heartbeat was magnified, the weight of the slip now a tangible presence in the space. I felt the delicate balance of secrecy wobble with every passing second. One misstep, one glance, and the truth could explode, humiliating and shocking everyone at the wedding. I knew that the next careful maneuver would determine whether I maintained control or watched everything unravel. I took a controlled, deliberate action, shifting the envelope slightly so that the slip was fully concealed, while positioning myself to monitor the son-in-law's reaction. Each movement was precise. Too abrupt and suspicion would spike. Too subtle and the opportunity to gauge his understanding would slip away. My daughter's eyes met mine briefly, a silent mix of trust and anxiety, reminding me that every choice mattered. The staff continued their routine, unaware of the tension layered over every motion, yet their presence added pressure to my careful choreography. Every heartbeat carried immense weight. The slip contained truths that could humiliate, shock, or forever change the wedding. I knew this maneuver would either stabilize the balance or push us closer to chaos, and the room seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of my next move. I let my eyes meet the son-in-law's just long enough to project calm confidence, masking the storm of revelation hidden within the slip. Every slight movement, every measured breath was designed to suggest awareness without revealing details. My daughter's gaze flicked toward me, taut with silent warning, while the staff moved about obliviously, their motions inadvertently highlighting the high-stakes tension. The son-in-law shifted, a flicker of uncertainty in his posture. He could sense that something was off, but not yet what. I realized that by controlling my actions and timing, I could guide his suspicions, keeping the secret intact while observing the cracks forming in his composure. Every heartbeat was a tightrope. One misstep and the delicate balance could shatter, exposing the truth in a flash of chaos. A small, almost imperceptible shift across the room, an exchanged glance between two guests, a whispered murmur that didn't escape my notice. The son-in-law's eyes narrowed further, suspicion now tangible, while my daughter's hands trembled slightly, her silent warning sharper than ever. The staff moved about, oblivious, yet each step seemed to magnify the tension in the air. The slip's contents, though still mostly hidden, had begun to exert influence. Subtle reactions revealed that the secret was no longer contained, and that the ripple I had anticipated was now spreading. Every movement I made, every glance I took, now carried weight. The balance I had maintained was fragile, and I realized that the next decision I made would either contain the secret or let it explode into the open. I knew I had only a moment to act before the ripple of the secret spread further. Carefully, I shifted the envelope, ensuring the slip remained completely hidden while subtly signaling to my daughter that I was in control. My movements were precise, almost imperceptible, but each one carried weight. The son-in-law's eyes followed every motion, suspicion intensifying, while my daughter's silent nod offered reassurance amidst the tension. The staff moved around us, unaware, yet their presence added an invisible pressure that made every decision critical. The room seemed to hold its breath, every whisper and glance amplified in importance. I realized that this single, calculated action could either stabilize the delicate balance I maintained or trigger a cascade of exposure that no one, not even me, could stop. It happened almost imperceptibly at first. A gasp from a nearby guest, a sharp glance exchanged between two others. But the ripple I had managed so carefully was now showing its first visible effect. The son-in-law's eyes widened, a flash of panic crossing his face as suspicion turned to realization. My daughter's hands gripped her seat tightly, silent tension radiating, while I felt the weight of every gaze in the hall subtly shift toward me. The staff remained unaware, but their routine movements seemed to underscore the growing drama. Every second now carried explosive potential. The secret I had guarded was beginning to assert itself, and the careful balance I had maintained hung by a thread. One misstep or one too bold reaction from him could instantly spiral the truth into full exposure. I realized that this climax of this story was moments away, and that the next action I took would define how it all unfolded. The tension snapped like a taut wire. The son-in-law's phone began ringing incessantly, its shrill tone cutting through the ceremony. Every head turned, whispers rippled, and his confident facade crumbled in an instant. The slip I had guarded so carefully had anticipated this exact moment, an urgent message exposing the truth he thought was hidden. My daughter's hands gripped her seat tightly, silent tension radiating, while I felt the weight of every gaze in the hall subtly shift toward me. The staff remained unaware, but their routine movements seemed to underscore the growing drama. Every second now carried explosive potential. The secret I had guarded was beginning to assert itself, and the careful balance I had maintained hung by a thread. One misstep or one too bold reaction from him could instantly spiral the truth into full exposure. I realized the climax of this story was moments away, and that the next action I took would define how it all unfolded. The tension snapped like a taut wire. The son-in-law's phone began ringing incessantly, its shrill tone cutting through the ceremony. Every head turned, whispers rippled, and his confident facade crumbled in an instant. The slip I had guarded so carefully had anticipated this exact moment, an urgent message exposing the truth he thought was hidden. My daughter's eyes met mine, a mixture of shock and silent apology, and the staff paused, bewildered by the sudden shift in energy. The secret's ripple had erupted fully, just as I had known it would. In that moment, the power dynamics shifted irreversibly. Control, humiliation, and revelation collided in a single breathtaking instant. I remained calm, the envelope safely in my hands, having maneuvered the storm to the precise moment it would have maximum impact. Justice, clarity, and truth all unveiled in one pulse of chaos. The ceremony continued around us, but nothing would ever be the same.